I can recall my fascination early in life with the self-opening door at the grocery store. The shopper would step on a small area in front of the door, and in response to pressure sensors that lay beneath a rubber mat, the door would magically swing open. Somewhere in there, pressure-sensitive mats were replaced with light-sensitive electric eyes. The door would sense the figure of a person walking up, which would trigger the opening. Cool. Technology. Man moving forward. On January 16, 1979, the patent for the first self-flushing toilet was applied for. Somewhere in the late 1980s, they started applying this technology to public bathroom facilities. It is from that moment that I draw the decline of Western civilization. There is a first time for everything, but my first time for that something may be years apart from yours. Most of us deal with any given technological innovation alone, with no opportunity to rise up against any perceived violation of civil liberty. For everyone of a certain age, there was a moment when everything changed. If you were born after 1990, you probably don't even imagine that this might have been a startling innovation. But one day, you walk into a bathroom, and rather than handles for flushing, there is a photoelectric device, an electric eye. And there you realize, an electric eye is going to watch you pee. There is no chance that in that moment your head does not explode. Quickly, you reassure yourself that the device probably only needs to generally sense that there is a body somehow obstructing the passage of light in front of the sensor. But that is not the first place your mind goes. And if your brain is anything like mine, the solving of this little electrophysical math problem does not actually ease your discomfort in any significant way. Because just because there is only so much information that electric eye actually needs to collect in order to function, does not mean that that same eye has been scrupulously constructed to collect only that much information, nor have we any confidence that once this information is collected, it is somehow destroyed and washed away, flushed from the recorded index of history. This line of thinking takes us into the mind and motives of the inventor of these valves. And we do that extra bit of math to realize that, well, if some pervy toilet engineer had set this rigmarole in place for the express purpose of taking a lurid gander at my private parts, then someone, somewhere, along the line in the design, regulatory, manufacture, distribution, installation process would certainly have noticed and raised a red flag. But even if this were so, that does not mean that some freewheeling self-starter, some entrepreneurial, urinal, engineer inventor of mechanical devices could not find a way to disassemble said flushing meters and reassemble them with a video recording device and relay mechanism to upload photos of my special business in the midst of one of its most intimate processes to an unknown photo stream. Of course, the term photo stream had not been coined at the time. But if it had. So, yes, eventually and ultimately we dismiss this thinking as simple paranoid fantasy. But it remains a paranoid fantasy we cannot disprove. Once we have admitted the possibility of a renegade free agent disassembler of auto flush valves, then we have to make the conscious decision, perhaps every time we step into a urinal thereafter, that, well, okay, while this paranoid fantasy is theoretically possible, it is probably not true, at least in this given case. It is permissible, in spite of everything we have been taught since childhood, to sacrifice that tiny portion of our privacy and/or dignity for the sake of going. Because sometimes you've just got to go, and unmonitored going is not an option anymore. It is a Rubicon of sorts, and if we do not stop for this, then for what ultimately would we stop? Because once we have gone there, once we have sacrificed 100% surety that our personal uniqueness is not being transformed into the featured act of somebody's distasteful fantasy, we have, to whatever tiny degree, released ownership. Our most intimate part, our most intimate thing might be living out a separate life somewhere out there in the cold and shriveling universe. Which means that, having accepted that the cameras in the bank are not so intimidating, at least by comparison. Which means the cameras in the 7-Eleven are not so problematical. Which means the cameras in the hotel are no big deal. Which means the cameras in the elevator, the clothing store, the ATM, the toll booth, the traffic light, cameras in the school, the gas station, in your computer, on your cell phone, global positioning signals transmitted from your cell phone, cameras at the airport that take naked photos of you through your clothes, cameras in the sky, cameras in those drone things, cameras in the missiles projected from those drone things onto the heads of those unfortunate pedestrians who walk beneath them. Zoom lens, ultraviolet, infrared cameras in those unmanned aerial vehicles. That's the preferred phrase. See-through imaging in those UAVs that sees through ceilings and walls by means of synthetic aperture radar. Drones in Pakistan, drones in Mexico to win the drug war, drones that the Mesa County, Colorado Police Department obtained FAA permission to fly anywhere they want to in the United States. Most of us naively assume that we are caught on camera perhaps 3 to 4 times a day. If you live in this city, you are caught on camera an average of 300 times per day. Once that number goes up, it does not go back down. In London, the average citizen is caught about 1,200 times per day. Of course, we'll never go that far. There are tribes in Africa, by the way, that do not allow you to take their picture. They believe it steals a piece of your soul. The Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International is a lobbying group that has a happy interest in seeing drones everywhere, pressuring states to open up corridors of drone-optional zones, where drones may fly in naked delight over consenting skies. There are applications pending for drones to fly over football stadia, for drones to issue traffic tickets. Drones have mission creep. Creeps have mission drones. Drones can carry tear gas and any kind of artillery you wish to name. Drones are the tools of cowards, the very sort who, back in the day of the Wild Wild West, would have been publicly shamed and reviled for shooting a man in the back. I'm so glad we've let go of that moral code. Drones can observe sex acts. Drones will, rest assured, observe sex acts. Drones will monitor people of unpopular color. They will say, "Throw down your weapon, you have 30 seconds to comply." Drones are perfect tools for the invasion of the airspace of sovereign nations. And isn't it good that in the history of mankind, no technology ever developed by a given country was ever matched or exceeded by another country that knew a good idea when it saw one, or who had the phone number of the manufacturer? Corporations are people, my friend. I traced the date back to January 16th, 1979. That was the moment that, to whatever tiny degree, we began the decline of Western civilization. Because once we have gone there, once we have sacrificed 100% surety, we have, to some tiny degree, released ownership. Somebody put it there. Somebody who had much more authority in such matters than me. Somebody is watching.